Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the weekly partner call. So this for the session, that's planned for today. Broadly, just two updates. One is, some of you may have noticed that yesterday we had a brief downtime. It was managed by the team exceptionally well, but we moved to a new pod-based architecture, which, if you recall, Shiva was discussing that a few weeks ago. So the good news is that we have moved our US East to the new architecture. So everyone should certainly start experiencing much better performance after this move. And this will also enable us to roll out some of the long pending items that we have been discussing for a while, like the new UI, a lot of other things that have been being held back for this particular migration will slowly start coming over the next few weeks. So that's one development that has happened. We are also moving the other US West and other data centers that we have internationally also to the new pod-based architecture. So I think overall performance should jump for everyone. A few people who experience issues during the transition, I believe our support team has already addressed that. If not, feel free to reach out and we'll make sure that everything is set right there. Now, for the session that's planned today, we have my colleague, Ryan. Ryan joined us, it's been like almost 4 or 5 months, and he's joined us to lead both consulting and education. And a lot of the videos that you see today on our YouTube channel are all actually the hard work that Ryan has put in, also on the documentation side, cleaning up our existing documentation. All that has been something that Ryan has really helped us a lot in. So one of his core expertise has been in working with several ticketing and PSA systems. So since it's such a core area for almost all MSPs to have, kind of leverage more out of ConnectSecure by integrating it with your PSA, we thought this topic today should be on how can you get the most out of your, out of ConnectSecure by leveraging the integrations with PSA systems. So that's basically the plan today. Ryan, over to you. Please feel free, go ahead, get started, and we'll keep an eye on chat. And as questions come up, we can address that. Thank you. Ryan rocks indeed.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Sri. Thanks for the invite. And, all the partners that join the call every week, thank you guys in advance for your time. I think we appreciate everyone's participation and all the feedback. You guys have been the core of, driving our roadmap development. So, thank you guys for everyone that's contributing and making the product better. So as Sri mentioned, you guys may recognize my voice if you've been on our YouTube channel lately. We launched that again, just to help partners with content on how to use this application the best, right? There's a lot of things going on here. So I'm trying to keep up with you guys. And so as Sri mentioned, today, I want to go over some best practices with PSA integration. I'm going to hone in on the ConnectWise integration, but I want to make it clear that the principles that we're teaching today really are applicable to all of the PSA integrations that we support. And even if it's not a supported PSA integration, there are still some alerting methods that you could use in our tool, right, to get those alerts out, maybe via email or via webhook or another communication channel that's open. So I'm going to go ahead and get my screen share going here, and we're going to dive right on in. So I'm going to just get my screen set up. Bear with me just for a second, guys. And all right. So screen share, I'm going to get us logged into our Learn environment here, and we're going to dive in. Now, we do have documentation, guys, for what we're going to go through today. To walk you through the ConnectWise integration specifics, I will cover some of them high level. I'm not going to go into the details of all the setup. I'm going to cover the basic principles, right, that you're going to want to look at. So when you get logged into the application, we're going to go up to the global settings, and then you'll land on the integrations page. We're going to drive down to the PSA section, and you'll see the supported integrations, and you just tap on the integration tile. So I'm going to tap ConnectWise. This is where you're going to configure the integration. Now, again, we've got a full setup doc that walks you through this screenshot by screenshot and takes you through all the pieces. I'm going to cover some of the high level today just to give everyone an understanding. So when you're in the integrations, there's a set of credentials that you can set. Yours, if it's blank, you just hit the plus sign. That'll let you start adding in the connection string to your ConnectWise environment. The name, you give it a name. This is the name that we call it in Cyber CNS. So you can call this whatever you want. Your company is the same company that you're using when you're logging into your ConnectWise environment. So when you guys open up ConnectWise and you're logging in, it's the company ID that you're using there. And then your domain is your site, right? So whatever site you're using to log into ConnectWise. So, na.myconnectwise.net if you're on the hosted cloud, or if you're on premise, you would use your own site. And then again, you've got your public and private keys. Most of all of you are probably aware of how the public and private keys work in ConnectWise. It's as simple as, again, I've got my ConnectWise instance up here. So we're just driving down into your system members. You're going to go to your API members. You're going to create a new API user. So I called ours ConnectSecure. Here you should see any of the other third-party integrations that you've got tied into your ConnectWise environment. So some of the other titles you're seeing on the screen are some of the integrations we've got. And again, I'm sure you guys have your own stacks there, but ConnectSecure or Cyber CNS would get created here. And then, of course, you would want to make sure as a best practice that we assign security roles correctly, right? So a lot of things that I've seen partners do with PSA over the years is they tie in all their API members, and I look down this column on role ID and I see the word admin over and over and over again, which is obviously a big no-no. We don't want to grant our integrations admin privileges to our ConnectWise environments. All of the integration vendors out there provide documentation on how to build those security roles specifically. So ConnectSecure is no different. Out on our docs page, we've got all the specific permissions that you need to set up in your security roles within ConnectWise so that you have a security role created. And what I've done over the years, as we've worked with ConnectWise partners, is we've always driven the security role by the API dash and then the name of the vendor or the integration. And that way, when we're looking at our security roles, they're kind of all logically grouped together, and I can identify that what's an API security role versus what would be a human being security role. So again, just as a best practice, you guys are setting up the integrations. Don't grant admin access to the system. Make sure you tailor that thing for least privilege. Okay. And so once you get your credentials and all that connected, ConnectWise integration will light up here, and your company mapping area will light up, and that will let you know that you've connected successfully to your system. Okay. Now, another question I get is, well, hey, we've got a couple different ConnectWises, right? One of the things you can do is you can actually add a second connection here. So if any of the ConnectWise partners here, if you guys have like a sandbox or a cloud sandbox environment, you can add your cloud sandbox here as well. So you can connect to multiple instances of ConnectWise, whether they're on premise or sandboxes, or maybe they're through merger and acquisition activity. I have also encountered partners where they got multiple ConnectWise instances for whatever reason, they haven't merged them. And so again, we could take a single Cyber CNS and connect it to multiple instances of a ConnectWise database. So support for multi-tenant there, okay? Once you get everything connected, then you're going to open up and get into, the guts of the integration, which is going to be on your company mapping section. Now, this is probably the most confusing spot for partners. I've been doing a lot of integration work. I've been doing a lot of support escalation work. And I've been doing a lot of observations around partners and how they're using these systems. And so this seems to be one of the mystery spots for partners. So I want to talk about into event sets, integration profile, and these company mappings. And obviously you guys are seeing on the screen, I've got a whole bunch of examples here for you. So if you're looking at yours, it may not look the same. It may even be blank with no records at all. Now, what you're seeing here are all of the different alert rules that I've created. Now, I've set these up as examples for you guys to look at. And what these are the alert rules in Cyber CNS that I want to get notices on. So the idea here is in our system under event sets, you're telling Cyber CNS what events or alert rules do we want to be notified on in the system. And so I set all of these event sets up, and basically to do these, you just tap add, you'll give it a name, and then you've got all these accordion style menus that you can select from. So if you tap on these names like agent, you'll see you've got some check boxes here that you can tap to select company, asset, and all these accordion menus basically have different options. Active Directory's got a ton of them in there. So again, if you go under there, you can see all the different things that we might want to get an alert on from our system. So the first, exercise in this is really about planning, right? What do we care about? What do we want to be alerted on? If you're not managing Active Directory, well, then you probably don't care about any of these alerts that I've got up top. Maybe it's just the ones below. But I think it's identifying, like, what do we care about? Vulnerabilities, patching, is it agents up and down? Is it Active Directory? Is it maybe a little bit of everything like you're seeing here? And so the idea is you get to define your own event sets. Now, I have an OCD habit of naming things in a very particular way. You guys probably are noticing there's a naming convention going on here. Again, this is completely controlled by you guys. I use this in all capitals and then lower cases to tell me what category I'm picking from. So if you notice here, we've got agent, company, asset, ports, so on and so forth. Whenever I create an event set, I always name it with capitals to signal to me what category I picked from. And there's a method to the madness here, and I'm going to get to that here shortly. But the idea is I want clarity on what alerts are coming out and what they're coming from. Because when these translate into tickets, I want to still be able to follow that same path of clarity on my tickets. So kind of step one is event sets. Identifying what do we want to be alerted from within CyberCNS. Now I've got 15 here. As you guys saw, there's a ton of options there. So I'd encourage you guys to take a little bit of time, look through what's available, and then come up and say, these are the 10 or the 12 or the 20 that we care about. And then we can set those up accordingly. Now, I want to take it through to the next spot, right? Which is integration profile. Now, on this spot, again, I always follow that same naming convention. So again, what you're seeing here, I've just got the 2 set up because I'm planned on setting the 3rd one up with you guys today. But the idea would be, as a best practice for me, I would match event sets to integration profiles. So if I have 15 things here, I'm going to make sure I've got the same corresponding 15 here. And I'm doing this again for clarity, and so that when I drive tickets through to ConnectWise, we can control how we're setting fields. So the integration profile is all about telling CyberCNS how to interact with your ConnectWise environment. Like, what service board do we go to? What status do I hit? What priority? What type, subtype, item? So all the fields that make up the tickets, this is where we're telling it how to interact. So let me walk you guys through a setup here of one as an example. I'm going to use this one here, Active Directory Security Group Delete Action. So I'm just going to copy the name, integration profile. I'm going to go add. So this is where I'm just going to give it that name. And again, I'm using the same name because again, I want these things to be one-to-one, so it's very clear. And then below, you've got all the fields that we are mapping to within the ConnectWise environment. So you're basically going to hit your drop downs and you're going to choose from what service board you want. So what you're seeing are all of our service boards coming from our system. We're just going to choose the one we want to go to. So we use the alert and monitoring board, and we use this for all of our tools that can carry an alert. We've got our sources here. So this is the source of the ticket, where it came from. So did it come from a call, a chat, our CyberCNS agent, ConnectWise RMM maybe, email connectors, portals, templates, workflow rules, right? These are all the various ways that tickets would be entering your ConnectWise. I'm just going to choose ConnectWise CyberCNS so we know where they came from. Then we get into the nitty gritty, right? So for those of you that are using ConnectWise and understand what type, subtype, and items are, this is probably one of the most discussed and diverse topics when we talk about service tickets, right? Type, subtype, and items can either be the death of you, or it can be a very powerful tool to enable reporting, better workflows, and then give you some metrics to drive through on KPIs, which I'm going to show you how we do this. Again, planning is key here. I think planning around what event sets do we care about, translate into what tickets are we going to see, and then from those tickets we start to break up how do we define our type, subtype, and items, right? So I'm going to actually jump into my service board, and I want to actually show you guys how I've configured this. So I'm in the ConnectWise setup table for the alerts and monitoring board, and I've got my types here. Now these are for my cyber CNS stuff. I'm going to zoom this in for you guys. So the types that you're seeing here, these represent the types that we find in cyber CNS on those categories. So if you guys remember when I was naming all the event sets, I used those capital letters. Well, these are those capital letters. These are also the same menu items you'll find in our accordion style event set menu. So what I did is I wanted to create correlation between cyber CNS and these fields, so I know exactly what we're talking about when we send tickets over. So I've broken out those categories, and then the subtypes are going to be the actual checkboxes that I selected from those categories. So these are basically showing you all the various event set rules. Each one of those 15 that I added, I have an individual subtype for. And the idea is here is that I want to be able to take any ticket that I generate out of cyber CNS, and I want it to come directly to ConnectWise. I want it to set the type for me, and I want it to set the subtype for me. So when these tickets come in, my team's looking at them, right? Here's a service board where some tickets have flown in. When these tickets hit, I want to be able to kind of look here and understand what kind of data are we getting from cyber CNS, right? Are we seeing Active Directory stuff? Is it our remediation stuff where we're detecting application updates that are needed, whether that's Microsoft Windows patches, third-party patching? Is it vulnerabilities being detected in the environment, so on and so forth? So all of these different categories really are what drive tickets through and end up setting these fields for us. Because again, I don't want my team, I don't want my engineers to hear the word, hey, we're going to start creating tickets in ConnectWise, and like you can silently hear this mushroom cloud going off in everyone's head because they're like, oh, great, more tickets in ConnectWise, right? I found that when tickets come to ConnectWise, if they're actually filled out tickets, they start to make more sense. People don't care as much when they understand what they're seeing. They come through, they've got types, subtypes, they've got items, in some cases mapped. And then when you drive down into these tickets, you know, the detail in these tickets is right there. So, you know, I'm going to open up one of these sample tickets for you guys to just show you the inside of this. So again, that ticket runs through, it sets the status, it got my type, my subtype, my item. So I know that this is a third-party application that's out of date. And so I can see it's WinRAR. I also have on my subject line, and then we've got the fix for it here as well. So sure you guys know, if not, any of our remediation tickets that we raise for application updates will also include the link to the fix in those tickets. So again, when an engineer gets a ticket like this and I'm looking at this, I don't mind as much, right? Because now I know what application, I've got the fix to the application. I know what asset in our environment's dealing with. And that asset also gets attached onto the ticket as it creates as a configuration. Now, this comes in if you have the configuration sync enabled on the integration, which I'm going to show you guys where that's at. But ideally, you've got ConnectWise syncing configurations from cyber CNS so that when we raise tickets, your engineers know what assets we're dealing with. So configs, right? So this is, again, I'm just under company configurations in ConnectWise, and I'm sorting by config type ConnectSecure. So when we create assets in your system, we have our own configuration type that we create. So we will create this, and then any asset we sync over will show up in that list under that type. And again, I'll just go, you know, this is my machine that I happen to work from. Inside of these configs, you've got your basic hard-coded details that all ConnectWise configurations have, right? Which is that pod there, your company, and your device details, right? This is pretty standard stuff. Now, the good stuff is the configuration details that cyber CNS is creating and dropping over here. So again, all of the asset information about the machine, along with vulnerability information on that machine, along with compliance and some of the various security controls that we're checking on those machines, We're also seeing some of the frameworks and what number of controls are non-compliant on this machine. So a lot of really nice data coming over that's in CyberCNS, bring it into ConnectWise configs. And so if you guys are using ConnectWise configs, you all know that this can start to get, this can get pretty powerful in terms of tracking service history against your assets, or using ConnectWise searching and configuration screen. So, you know, if you come up to your config search and you go to your advanced search, I can now actually come in here and isolate maybe ConnectSecure. And now I can start to look at my assets. And so now we've got all these specific questions, right? ConnectWise will let us look into those question fields. So, you know, if you're scanning through these are all your different various sorting, reporting, and filtering views that you can look at. So if you were looking for specific, like, hey, let me see risk score, let me see all my E machines out here, right? So there's my 6. I've got 6 machines that are reporting I have an E score. Maybe I want to see, show me my A's. Where's the A's at? There's my Aegis devices. I got 4 of those. And so you can kind of toggle, no B's. Do I got any C's? There's a couple C's, and looks like majorities are D's and E's here. It's a bad company. But you can see using this advanced config search, I'm able to look through any of those asset detail lines and start to sort, report, export, get data on it. So I find this incredibly useful, not only for our configurations, but any of your ConnectWise configurations, right? If you're not using that. So advanced searching those assets is, I think is a great look. Okay. So I'm going to take us back here. I know I kind of dove into ConnectWise pretty deep there. Let's just reel ourselves back. So we're setting up that integration profile, right, for the security group. Now you guys understand where I got all these values from, right? So when we're configuring these, it's just pulling through whatever's in your ConnectWise. So again, I think it's important that you do your planning ahead of time. You build your ConnectWise out so you know what choices you need. So when you come in and build your mappings, everything's already sitting in there for you. So I can say Active Directory, and then in my subtypes, I'll already have all my Active Directory subtypes built. So I can see there's my security group delete action. I'm just aligning this up to my name. And again, just to create clarity. Now for this one, I don't have any items defined, so I'll just leave the item field blank. It's not required. What status when we create tickets? New. When we close, close. So it just wants to know what's the new or open status or what's the closed status. Some of you might be calling it closed or resolved or completed or whatever that verbiage is. You just select it. It wants to know the priority. So we can set what priority these tickets come over as. I'll say P2. And then your note type. Your note type external would be the discussion on your ConnectWise tickets. So partner facing, customer facing discussion area, or the internal, which is the internal analysis. I'll go ahead and save that. And once that line's created, you'll see it'll just show up here. And so what I do is I'll repeat that setup until I match every one of my event sets to an integration profile. And the reason that I'm doing all of these separate is because when you go in and look at these, I want to have individual type, subtype, and item mappings. That's why I'm separating. Oops, sorry about that. That's why I'm separating everything, because I want to control how these tickets come to ConnectWise and make sure that all those fields are being populated and we're not just sending a new ticket over with all the fields blank. So yes, it's a little bit of upfront work here, right? It's a little bit of planning. It's a little bit of building here. But once this is built, it's really on autopilot, right? Unless we're adding new event sets and things that you want to add in. Once you get your events defined, you generally don't have to come back here. Okay. And then the last thing here is the mapping of the companies. So this is where we map our CyberCNS company to our ConnectWise company. And so when you tap, well, first you can see here what's already mapped. So below, this is showing that blue web is mapped to blue web. If you're mapping a ConnectWise site, you'll also see the site name. And then these are the event sets or integration profiles that are running for that said customer. So I'm going to go ahead and just map another one here for us just to show you guys. So if I do add, you'll have 2 options. You can either import from ConnectWise directly, which will give you a search list. This will be all your ConnectWise customers. And you can literally go through and use the checkbox to select what customers you want to bring in. That would allow you to bring those right into CyberCNS, so you're not having to manually create them, and it will map them. If you've already created customers in CyberCNS and you want to map them to your ConnectWise company, then you use the other option, which is map existing. So we'll choose that. We'll go next. We will display existing companies in CyberCNS over here. So I'll take our XYZ test company because I'm sure that most of you ConnectWise users have an XYZ test in your system. So I just come over here to the right side. And again, I'm looking at my ConnectWise company and I'm just going to go find in the list and match it up. If you don't see it in the list, you can also use the picker or the magnifier and you can start searching for the name and hit get companies and it will again search and populate that list for you. Okay, so I'm just mapping those up. You'll also notice we have a ConnectWise site option here if you want to map your sites. So, you know, we've got the glorious default main site, which I'm sure, again, a lot of you have seen in your ConnectWise. We'll just use map as main for now. And then enable config. This is actually what turns that configuration sync on that I was referring to. So all these assets that come in from ConnectSecure, those come in when that box is turned on. So on means sync my configs, off means don't sync my configs. Pretty self-explanatory, right? And then finally, you've got your create ticket option. So checking the box means allow ticket creation for this customer. Not checking it means don't turn it on for this customer. So a lot of our partners, again, are weary of this because they were unclear on the mappings and all that. So if you were to leave one of these off, you can always come back later and turn it on. So for example, if I just said, hey, I'm just going to map the company and the site, I'm going to leave this stuff off today. And I'm just going to go add here. It'll basically just give you a quick recap down below that, hey, you're mapping this customer, this site, you don't have any profile set, and we're not doing ticket or enable configs. And we're just going to say finish. And that will map the customer. And you can see there that they've been mapped, they've been added, and I don't have any of the tickets or configs on. But again, very simple to change. Go back and edit, take us back here, and I can start to turn this stuff on. So that would then do the configs. And then when I'm ready to do tickets, right, when I feel comfortable, I can go edit. I can then say create tickets for this customer. And this is where we can start to pick what event sets we're going to alert for this customer. So again, if this customer XYZ test code doesn't have Active Directory services with us, then I'm not going to pick all the Active Directory stuff. Maybe I just care about the remediation stuff, right? And so I'm going to go through, select the ones I care about, update those. And again, onboarding a new customer, little bit of upfront time to get them onboarded into CyberCNS, define those event sets, define the profiles, get the agents deployed. Once that's configured, though, most of the stuff is on autopilot for you, right? After you've got this configured and you're using our global scheduler to kick the scans off, the rest of this really should be flowing for you guys, right? And so the idea is to get them on board the right way and then reduce the amount of effort to manage them moving forward. Now, I covered, again, basic mappings and setup of the environments. And by the way, if anybody is interested in getting this set from us or from me, I'm happy to share my list with any of the partners out there. Just let us know. And we'll get you guys a copy. And of course, this session will be recorded. So if anybody wants to rewatch this, they're going to be able to do that. All right.
So Ryan, just quick, keeping an eye on chat.
Yeah.
Things, besides the product issues that Jerry is facing, which we will help in the on-prem migration. Couple of questions relating to the topic that you're discussing now. One is there is, I think there was Craig had a point that did the config creation with I would imagine with ConnectWise or with any PSA get fixed, and would you know that? And second question is from Matt. Is there any plan to be able to? I'm sorry, from Rick saying, is there any talk of not duplicating the CWM config or mapping to existing configs? Could you just take that up, please?
Yeah. So, Craig, yes, the config syncing should be working, and if it's not, Craig, we've been in touch a lot, so get in touch with me. I can set up a session with you and we can get that handled, but it should be working. If you've got it mapped, what I would suggest is maybe just go turn the config sync off, turn it back on, and maybe that'll restart the service there. But if you're having issues, let me know. We'll get it resolved for you, but the config sync should be working. All right. And then Rick. So Rick mentioned not duplicating ConnectWise managed configs or setting up some type of mapping to exist. So I don't know if there's anything on our feature request map for that. We can certainly get something added. Now, what I have observed happening with our partners, which I find has been working pretty well, is our system is aware of duplicates based on those host names. So a lot of times what we'll see is a ConnectWise partner, they're going to have configs coming in from their RMM tools. So if you've got Automate, LabTech, or RMM, or Kaseya, or Enable, or SolarWinds, or one of those RMM tools out there, they will generally create configs right inside ConnectWise, right? And I would say 90% of the time, they're going to be called managed server, managed workstation. I know some of you are shaking your heads out there. So what we're seeing is if an RMM tool has a configuration already and it looks like a duplicate, our system we still create our config, right? So there will be a duplicate. But what's nice is when the tickets actually come in, both configs will be attached to the ticket. So if I had a desktop here from ConnectSecure, and then I also had this same config that was a managed workstation or managed server from your RMM tool, that config will also be attached to the ticket upon creation. And so I'm finding that most of the partners that have that are okay with it because there's clear separation of the assets because of the type. You can also consider doing bundled configurations. So let me use this example of desktop right here to show you what that might look like. We'll say that this is a managed workstation, and we'll have to select our company. Of course, we're just going to pretend, guys, that this had come in from one of our RMM tools. So you might see something that looked like this, right? Where you've got an asset from ConnectSecure and then an asset from your RMM tool. Both are the same device. Both have agents running on them. What you could also consider doing is taking these and creating what's called a bundle configuration. So if you go up to any config in ConnectWise, you can choose which one you want to be the parent. You just got to start on it. So if you want the ConnectSecure one to be the parent, you start in it. If you want your RMM one to be the parent, you just start on that one. You can then go to configurations. You can find that other machine right here. There's the other ConnectSecure machine, and you can attach it. And so what that'll do is it will actually bundle the configurations together. And so now instead of what we're seeing as a duplicate, you can see now all of the config info from ConnectSecure, right? All the data that we dump in will now be merged with your RMM data config. So you'll kind of have everything in one spot, so to speak, right? And so that might be a method of dealing with duplicate configs if that's something that you guys are seeing and you're like, hey, I don't want to have two. That would be another method you could deal with it. Short of that, I think there would also be room for a feature request to get put in with our dev team to say, maybe on the integration, Shri, we could offer some type of toggle that says, ignore duplicate configs or
Correct.
create something like that. So I think we could
Makes
create
sense.
some type of option, right?
Yeah. Certainly,
So,
we can keep that as a feature request and look at it after the call.
great. Yeah. And Rick, if there's something there more that we can help you with on that, get in touch, send something in to our support team, and I can help get you assistance on that if you need to talk. Okay.
Other question is, does it create historical tickets or just create tickets on a go forward basis from Arnie?
Those are going to be on a go forward basis. Kind of the golden rule of ConnectWise, right? Most things in ConnectWise do not go backwards retro. So this is going to be similar. As soon as you set the integration up, it's going to be the go forward tickets. It's not going to go back historically and create hundreds or thousands of tickets in that case for historical stuff.
And then Matt has a question, is there any plan to incorporate configuration automatic population of that for other PSAs besides ConnectWise?
Shri or Shiv, that would be for you guys. I think they're asking, how we can dump assets over, I know those other integrations have the ability to take assets. So the question would be, do we have that? If not, we could certainly get them on the roadmap, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I know today was a little biased on the ConnectWise integration. I apologize, but again, as I noted earlier, guys, if you look at Autotask, Halo, Kaseya, Sherpa, Synchro, they're also going to have those 3 integration setup menus. They're going to have event sets, profiles, and manage company mappings. They all won't have the config sync, of course, but you will see these other commonalities. So the principle and the idea what we went through today can be applied across those other integrations as well. So I just want to point that out. All right. Shri, was there any other questions in there that we did not get to?
A couple of support issues. Chris, we will, duplicate issues in Synchro. I'm taking a note, so we'll head one of our support folks to reach out to you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Arnie, and then we saw the suggestion on MAC addresses or IPs. I think we're doing a number of lookups. And we also, I know that ConnectSecure, we actually create an actual unique device identifier that gets assigned to all the devices when we push them over. Can't think of actually what that record name is called, but I know that we push a field over that helps us uniquely identify in the event that there is a duplicate or a match against one of the addresses or the other identifiers. But still a great suggestion.
Yeah, and Matt, to your question, is there any plan to use the criticality of a patch? We will circle right back with you on this particular question after I double check with Shiva. Shiva couldn't make it the call this morning, but I'll certainly check with him, and I've taken notes on a few of these.
Great. Now, one of the things that, before I go on, Shri, how are we doing on time? How are we doing on questions? Did we get all the questions answered?
So far, we are covered. There are a few support issues, but we will reach out to those folks individually after the call.
Okay, so I'm going to just show you guys one more thing that I think is important to understand about the integration that we didn't really talk about. So again, when we talk about tickets flowing into your systems, right? These tickets are controlled based on the event set and integration profile that gets assigned down to the customer. So when we're in our ConnectWise mapping and we're looking at our customers, whatever event set and integration profiles are defined for the customer is what dictates if we're going to push tickets over. And of course, you have to have the create ticket enabled. That will push over those by those customers. Now, you can also push tickets to ConnectWise manually. Some people are like, well, why would I ever do that? Some people do it, right? Especially when they're getting familiar or comfortable with how these look and what that process might look like once it's in ConnectWise. You can also push single tickets. So I'm gonna just show you guys very quickly what that looks like. So if you're on a customer, I'm just gonna go to our Blue Web company and we use our remediation plan. So remediation plan, where we're gonna see all of the items that need updates, whether that's third-party applications that need to be updated, Microsoft Windows patches that are missing, or application baselines for mandatory or denied applications. These are the things that will start showing up here again. So you can use your filters. I'll just filter down to Windows, and then I'm just going to do Microsoft because I just want to look at some Microsoft stuff here. Okay, so here we go. I can see all the Microsoft stuff in our system currently that is not, that's pending remediation. And as I look out to the right, you'll notice we've got our ticket ID columns where you can see the tickets. Now, these are indicating which of these have tickets open in ConnectWise. Those are links to the ticket. So if you click the blue, it'll take you to the ConnectWise ticket, of course. And the ones that are blank means no ticket has been opened for these. So you could, in theory, I'm going to sort by assets here. In theory, I could come in here at any time and say, hey, I want to fix this Windows 10 issue on 3 assets. I also want to fix that Edge issue on these 3 assets. And maybe I'm also going to fix this Office 365 thing. And maybe just randomly picking these 3. And you can pick whatever combination you want. It could be 1, 2, or 10, or all. Once you've got the ones you want, come up to integration action up on the top of that menu. It'll ask you for a short or long description. If you hover your mouth, you'll see a short description of what it's going to send. I always do long description because I like more information. So I'll just do long, but you're welcome to do either. You will get the integration action menu come up. So this will show you any of the integrations that you have set up. So I've got ConnectWise Manage set up. We've got Cyber CNS email set up, and we've got an auto task set up. So if you had other integrations, they would display here. You pick the one you want to use. I'll just keep it on ConnectWise. Then we've got create, close, or update tickets. In this case, I'm just going to create these tickets because they're not created yet. I'm going to go next. It will then ask you, okay, I'm going to push these over. How do you want them to go to what board do they go to? What should they look like? So subject line, again, I'm going to do this with the group. So sample partner call on June 28th, just so we know where this ticket went. Then you've got the description. You can expand this box if you want to see what's going to go into the body of this. So again, this is company name, Windows 10, right? The build for that patch. And it's telling me I've got 3 assets affected by that said patch. So again, it's just the details about those 3 checkboxes I clicked in the remediation plan. That's what this all is. Okay. Then we're going to tell it where we want the ticket to go. So again, I'll go alerts monitor, Cyber CNS is the source. This is going to be remediation. And this is going to be application updates. And this is going to be Microsoft patches. Wants to know what the status for ticket creation is and what the status for closed is. And a priority. And I'll make this a priority 1 since we were supposed to be installing our customers' Microsoft patches with our RMM tool. And we found out that they weren't installed on these machines. So we're going to go ahead and create those tickets. Sean, yes, it can auto-populate those fields. I will show you how to set that auto-populate up here right after. So if you guys noticed up in the top right corner, we had a message that said successfully created. And if I refresh this, you'll see those ticket numbers are now populated. 1, 2, 3. So it's 11572. If I tap that, that would link me into, oh, that's my wrong shortcut. Sorry. If I tap that, what was that ticket number? I got to actually go back here and see. I think I clicked the wrong one. Oh yeah, 572, sample partner. So you guys can see there's that ticket up top, the red one, because I marked it priority 1. Remediation, app updates, Microsoft patches. And again, the details inside the ticket are, hey, here's the fix for the Windows 10 patches that are missing. There's the machines affected. I scroll down, I can see the other 2 and 3. So again, there's that Microsoft Office 360 apps for business, needs to go on the latest patch. And again, there's the fix for it. Again, if you tap those links, what you're going to want to be aware of is, I just realized this, guys, we've got the hyperlink with the open bracket in it, which is why this would not open. So if you actually get rid of that last bracket, there you go. There's the note. So dev team, we might want to just pop that in. In fact, I'll send that through for you guys. But basically all these tickets that roll through, again, can be opened. As you saw, I could literally say, hey, I just want to take all these things and create 1 ticket from them. If you have this fear of having too many tickets open, you could, in theory, grab everything and make 1 giant ticket, or you could do it by any combination that you guys would like. So that's just manually pushing tickets over. Now, you don't have to do it manually if you configure those integration profiles and the event sets at the customer level. That's what creates the automation for you. So when I'm over here and I actually set these things up, this is what actually creates that automation. So if we detect those in the system, we'll immediately create those tickets for you. So you don't have to actually go create them. The only time you need to manually create is if you don't have the automation set up, or maybe you're doing some light testing or onboarding, right? You want to do it slowly. You can do it that way. So we give you the option to kind of do both. Someone had asked about doing default setups. So yes, so if you'll notice here on our integration profiles, again, this is how we tell Cyber CNS how to interact with ConnectWise. You'll notice that these say is default no. If you mark one of these as the default, what will happen is next time you go to make a ticket, if it's not mapped with, these choices, it will automatically pick up whatever's in here as our default options. So the alerts and monitoring board, Cyber CNS, Active Directory, so on and so forth. So in theory, what you guys could do is you could make a default template here that's marked as the default. That is kind of like the catch-all, if you will, the one that's going to just be there in case there's no mappings to find below it. Because ideally, we want mappings for everything. So I always make sure that I've got everything accounted for because, again, I want all my tickets completely filled out. I don't want engineers have to manually fill fields in. The minute we have to fill fields in, we're adding more work, right? So, but yes, you can define a template that's the default, which will then default any of those mappings when you go to push a ticket over. Okay. And then last but not least, I just want to remind you guys, ConnectSecure.com/videos. ConnectSecure.com/videos will take you to our YouTube channel. And on the channel, we have a video that I did for the ConnectWise integration where I actually stepped through it a little more in detail. It is out here. So right here, ConnectWise Managed Integrations, about 17 minutes long. So actually a lot shorter than today's call. But I will go through the integration in detail there. So if any of you want to watch that, it's out on the channel. And of course, the call from today will also go out on the channel. And, again, any support issues or anything that you guys are not having luck with, let us know. We will get in touch and we'll be happy to work this out with you guys. So Shri, what else is out there? Any other questions that we can answer before we wrap up? I know we're coming up on 10 minutes here. And again, appreciate everyone that's hung around and listened to the full call. Thank everyone for your time.
Yeah, I think there's just a couple questions. I'm not sure. Steve had a question. There are fields for the grade and other ConnectSecure fields automatically created in ConnectWise.
Yes, Steve, they are. So all of the ConnectWise integration fields that you saw today here on these assets, so the configuration questions, all of these are automatically generated by our integration sync. So you do not have to create any of those or fill any of those fields in. The integration will handle all that.
And Patrick has a question, will tickets be automatically closed when the vulnerability is resolved?
Correct. So the vulnerabilities, yes, great. I should have mentioned that. Yes. So tickets will go to auto close after they've been resolved, which again is why on the integration profile is why it asks you for what closed status you should map to. Because when we detect remediated items that have been resolved, so again, I'm on that remediation plan and I go to remediated. Let me go back to our company, guys, so you can see this a little clearer. So if we're on remediated, here I can see all the remediated items in the customer, and then here's all the tickets that correspond to those remediated items. So all those tickets ideally are automated and closed, and engineers aren't even touching them, especially if you're using our patching systems to do some of the work for you. So yes, in the event that they're resolved, they will be auto closed out of the system.
And I think Steve has again a question that can you go back and share the screen where the grade from ConnectSecure can be seen?
Yes. So where I was at earlier is so basically you go to configurations here. I was using advanced search. And then I filtered down to the ConnectSecure config type and I went to the questions and I pulled up the risk score. And then here you can just put in what you're searching for, hit search, and then it filters the assets below based on those questions. And then again, if I drill down into one of these, pull up maybe one of our E's, because they'll have more data. If you drive into that, it's this field right here that it's reading from. So it's just reading that risk score, which is the very first. Cool. Awesome, Steve. I see that cleared it up for you. Yeah, and then of course, for any of you ConnectWise partners that are using third-party reporting or breakage reporting for that matter, or Power BI, which I see a lot, you can use all of these configuration questions are exposed in the ConnectWise breakage data sets. So right away, I could go into breakage and I could start to build a dashboard to show me, for example, show me the count of all risk score where it says E or D or some number. You could very quickly and easily start to build different KPI metrics using those reporting, because all of this is exposed in ConnectWise's APIs and in their breakage data sets already. And then of course, you guys already know all the ticketing is as well. So any of the tickets that come in, again, if I'm building KPIs, I'm going to say, show me the count of tickets by subtype, which actually reminds me, this is another thing you guys can do with this integration once it's set up, is if you're in ConnectWise's just standard service reports, these are already all built for you. You can go to the type, subtype, and item report. And for example, make sure you're looking at the right board, alerts and monitoring, and pick a date range. Maybe I'll just say this week. You print this. This will show you all of your cyber CNS or whatever you're pointing at. Now, again, I'm able to see the ticket counts based on those types, subtypes, and item data. So now I can really start to understand what's the count of tickets based on those categories that we've set up. This is already all really built. Some partners use it, some don't. But again, getting type, subtype items and configs in, I think opens up a whole new area of data set and metrics that you guys can start to turn into more actionable stuff. So hopefully this is helping you guys and turning some bulbs on for a few of you. And again, if there's any questions on this, we've got a lot of expertise in the side of the house. So happy to help you guys out.
All right, I think we're fully caught up. So if there are no other questions, as always, thank you very much for those of you who had a few support issues. My colleague Vrushali has taken note of that, and we will reach out to you after this call to make sure that those issues are addressed. So yeah, next week we'll have more updates. So thank you very much. Have a great rest of the day. Appreciate you all joining the call. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Everyone.